Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to NFR. It's a Monday night. It's time for SAFRL Tier 1. And of course, it's round 5 of Season 8. And I wasn't aware it was going to be a night race. But a night race it is. We're in Monaco. Not a circuit known for its overtaking. A track that's known as being an equalizer. Of course, a safety car is never far away. Lots of mistakes possible at this circuit. Not a lot of room for error. It's only one or two places really you can go down an escape road. Everywhere else, get no second chances. I was just about to say still no action out on track. The drivers appear scared of the layout, but now we're starting to see some mechanics coming out. And there we go. First of the runners out onto the tarmac. It's going to be Pantry Star, one of the two Papaya McLarens. I'm sure they wish they had their Ayrton Senna livery for Monaco. Ooh, and that's exactly what I mean. A mistake is never far away. Just on the exit there for Pantry Star. Slowest corner. Definitely on the track. Maybe in F1. This is not Shumi. It's a driver who's making a bit of a return. Hasn't been spending a lot of time doing online racing. Now he's back and looking to get back up to speed. It was pretty quick before he disappeared. But now it may just take a few races to get the most out of him again. Here comes the other McLaren. Wins it's now leaving the pits. We have 14 runners for tonight. Lots of you already in the comment section. A lot of the viewers would be tier 2 drivers for Wednesday night. They'll be looking in, getting some ideas for strategy, getting some ideas of what a good lap time in qualifying is. Of course, no trickery in the tires. Everybody's going to get going on the soft, fastest tire available. On a circuit like this, you need every bit of traction you can. Of course, in a race like this, lots of times your strategy doesn't mean much. Going to be numerous safety cars. The strategy is going to change so many times. Virus comes over the line. I think this will be the first lap time of the evening. It is. It's a 110.4. It's immediately followed over the line by Andre, 110.5. So nothing in it between those top two times. Now Thiago Maestro goes over the line. I don't think that's a representative lap. He must have backed off Mr. Rem over the line, 111.9. So he's about a second and a half adrift from where he wants to be. Cheddar goes quickest, 110.0. 4/10 faster than anything we've seen tonight. And I think by the end of qualifying, we'll definitely be in the 109s. Logic, well, I said by the end of qualifying. We're nowhere near the end of qualifying. 109.5. Logic goes into provisional pole. Those are one of those escape roads I spoke about earlier. A few escape roads you can go down. Just don't want to get yourself in an Austin Powers situation where you get stuck in between those two barriers and get disqualified. Seen all sorts on this game and the ones prior to it. More lap times now getting put in. Logic still the quickest by a very considerable margin, almost half a second between himself and Cheddar. Then Virus P3, Andre P4. Two RBs having a good start to the evening, currently in 3 and 5. Wizards P6. Remember, only 14 drivers in the field. That means that for some of these drivers, they will be missing a teammate. For those drivers, it's crucial. It's so crucial that they finish in the points in the absence of their teammate, minimize the damage to the Constructors' Championship. For those of you who do have your teammate, good opportunity to shine, get both cars into the top 10. This is Wizards. He has set his first lap time. It was a 1:10.7. Ooh, Brands has now split what was the top two, and look at that, what a lap time of 1:09.545, just 200ths of a second away from Logic, and definitely the race is on for pole position. Thought that was a bit of a dominant time, but not anymore. And as we speak of dominance, well, what was that? What was that? I was talking about 109s. We were in the mid 109s. I thought we'd see a low 109 by the end of quali. Well, we've just got a very, very low 108. It's a 108.1 by Mango, and anyone else in the field looking to take provisional pole, well, we've got a lot of work to do. Two men closest to provisional pole, Logic and Franz. Those are the two drivers in P2 and 3. Their time's almost identical. They're 1.5 seconds away from provisional pole. So I don't know what Mango has found on this racetrack. If he's found a little bit of a shortcut or whatever the case may be, but he's found 1.5 seconds over the rest of the field. If that translates to race pace, it's going to be very difficult to stay with the Ferrari. Of course, not a high-speed circuit. It's only got one DRS zone, and it's quite a useless DRS zone when compared to others. You can't rely on the overtaking as much on this track. Evidence of that, the 2024 Monaco Grand Prix, just 22 overtakes over the entire race distance throughout the field. Formula E, on the other hand, proving that stat very wrong. They themselves had the Formula E Monaco E-Prix just 2 weeks before Formula 1 held their event, and in the Formula E race there was 200 overtakes throughout the field. Passing is possible. It's just difficult in these modern F1 cars. Trying to picture the length of one of these cars. Everybody always talking about F1 cars getting way too big. The length of one of these F1 cars is comparable to a large SUV. It's not really what you think about when you think Formula 1 car. Something the size of a SUV. Not the size, the length and breadth of an SUV. That is insane. Of course, in the early 2000s, cars weighed much less than they do now. And IndyCar and Formula One, between the two, IndyCar was considered the much heavier single-seater. As of today, Formula One cars, they're about 50 kilograms heavier than an IndyCar. I assure you, these guys will not ride around in single file for the duration of the race. There will be overtakes, there will at least be attempts of overtakes. Some of those attempts may result in a safety car. Others will result in great entertainment. Logic did go out on a run. He was able to close that gap. That gap was 1.5 seconds. It's now 0.6 of a second. So he's taken almost half out of that gap, but he's going to have to find a whole lot more. Brand still in P3 with that first lap time of a 1:09.5. He would have been thrilled with the lap time as he went over the line. And his heart would have sunk when he saw Mango over the line for a 1:08.1. This is your pole sitter for the Scuderia Ferrari HP team. Comes into the pits. Successful run. Fastest man in the session by a considerable margin. This qualifying session's gone by pretty quickly, hasn't it? Just over 5.5 minutes remaining in the session. I'm so scared of the safety car that even when I see a caution in qualifying, my commentary pauses for a second. I'm like, wait for it, wait for it. Oh, wait a second, it's quali, we're safe. Ooh, and as I say, something about a safety car. We see Brands trying to use all of the racetrack, using a little bit too much of the racetrack. He clipped the wall. We saw some carbon fiber flying off, and as a result, straight into the pits. Remember, this is a circuit that is very dependent on downforce. If you do lose any of that downforce, even just an end plate, the chances of setting a competitive quali lap are very low. So anyone who loses any part of their car is probably going to immediately dive into the pits. The one Ferrari, fastest man in the field. The other Ferrari down in P13, looking for something better. Two spikes entering the tunnel. Of course, that tunnel has always been there since Monaco has been on the calendar. It used to be a lot shorter though. The tunnel became a lot longer and they decided to build a hotel on top. This is Spikes over the line, the second of the two Ferraris. His teammate up in provisional pole. Spikes goes P11, 1:10.6. This is Pantry Star. He's just gone over the line himself, 1:11.0. Stays in P12. Everybody there in the top 6. remaining in the pits. Wizards has actually just joined that top 6, a 109.4. 10 minutes ago that would have been good enough for provisional pole, but not anymore. The only way you're getting provisional pole now is to possibly get into the very low 108s or even a 107. If anyone's going to get a 107, it's that Ferrari. It's Mango. Surely he's going to come out to defend that lap time, even though it seems like he doesn't need to. We know Logic is an extremely quick driver himself. Sometimes it just takes a few extra laps to come to terms with Monte Carlo. And of course, do bear in mind, the game had an update earlier on today, and sometimes when we have an update, we see some new interesting issues. So if you do see anything funny on your screens tonight, that's probably the reason why. Yesterday we had a race where DRS was enabled on the start finish line before we got going. It's Ferrari, pops his car up into third place. The 109s now becoming a lot more populated than they were. 109.5 was good enough for provisional pole when we got going. I thought we'd see low 109s, but then we immediately popped into the 108s. Only two drivers have been able to do that, Mango and Logic, but they are separated by 0.6 of a second. Mango is out on track on an outlap. Logic is out on track on an outlap. Logic is the one just ahead, so let's ride on board with the man currently in P2. He needs to find a chunk of time, a whole handful of time. It's not one of the situations where you just need to go out there, find a tenth, find 2 tenths, hope that your opponent doesn't improve. No, he's going to have to find a whole lot of time. In the first sector, very similar to what he's done before, so wasn't able to find any sort of improvement really. He's going to have to rely on sector 2 and sector 3. If he made a mistake in either of those sectors, if he backed off in either of those sectors, he'll know exactly where he did it. And now he'll just be looking to perfect it. Using lots of the curb there on the inside of the chicane. Don't want to use too much, can invalidate the whole thing, but he hasn't invalidated it because he's still throwing the car around in aggression. Let's see what the Alpine is capable of, then we'll go to Mango because he's just behind here. Ooh, and that track map has turned red. I think he's invalidated that. He's going to stay a 108.7. This is your current pole sitter. Doesn't really need to find an improvement, but he's going to look for a 1 anyway. Brands actually went over the line as well, 108.7. That's an identical lap time. Identical lap time for P2 and 3. Amazing stuff. And now Mango goes over the line. He does improve. He improves into the 107s. Say 107.9. I thought I mentioned 107s earlier on in the stream, and then I thought, no, that's a little ridiculous. Well, 107.9 it is. Who else is still out on circuit? I think this is it. The only man left on circuit goes around the final corner now. Mr. M looking for an improvement on his 109.7. And there is no improvement. He's seen the checkered flag. I wonder if he just came out of the pits a little too late, didn't get his final run in. But nevertheless, that is the end of qualifying. There are your official results. Mango taking pole position with a 179. Incredible stuff. Then we had Brands and Logic. I thought those were identical times, but unfortunately they're not. It's a 744, 784, just 400ths of a second between Brands and Logic. Then it's Ferrari P4, Wizards P5, Cheddar P6, Mr. MP7 not able to get a lap time in at the end. We've got Shumi Sims, Andre, Pantry Star, Spikes, Tiago Maestro. I believe Pantry Star made up the field. Sorry, at the end there, I had to try and remember. Of course, now we look at the empty pit lane. Guys will be lined up on the start-finish line, preparing their final adjustments to their strategies. What tyre do they intend on starting on? How far do they intend to go into the race? But of course, this is Monte Carlo. We could have an early safety car and all of those strategies could go out of the window. Lots of support for Mango. Of course, a rather large upgrade to this pit complex here in Monaco. For many, many years, this was a fresh food market during the year. Now it has been upgraded to a more permanent structure. Of course, just the streets of Monaco throughout the year. And then they take about 2 weeks to set up this track. This track stays in place for about 3 weeks. Of course, you have the Formula E Prix. Then you have the various Formula 1 classics. And then you have the Monaco GP on the 3rd week. Then they dismantle everything in about the space of a week. Get the green light instead of the red lights. So that means we get a formation lap. This will just allow the drivers one last chance to go around the circuit. Get some temperature into the tires, get those brakes ready for turn 1. This is one of those turn 1s on the calendar that you're almost guaranteed to see some carbon fiber flying off. Some drivers will have to cut to the inside. Some of them will get will get a warning rather, for jumping to the inside. So important to keep your nose clean in the opening laps here in Monaco until things settle down. So Mango, we saw how quick he was in qualifying. Will he be able to replicate that in the race? Of course, if he doesn't get a good start, finds himself back in the field. Not easy to make overtakes. Very unique circuit this. Someone in the comment section hoping for a crash on the first lap. Well, hopefully we don't see any of that. You might only have to wait until turn 1. We'll go on board now with the man starting in P3. Get a good view of the top 2. Don't worry too much about those disqualifications. Those are just cars who didn't manage to park properly, so they're going to be pushed back slightly in their grid box. Now we wait. The red lights, 5 of them. When they go off, we will go off. Alpine, what a great start. Fantastic start from Logic. Did Brands maybe just get disconnected there? Didn't have a fantastic start and he appeared to be ghosting, but Mango leads the way. Seems like a good turn one for everyone. Didn't see any carbon fiber flying around in the background, and I don't see anybody stationary on circuit. So great start to the Monaco race. This is Mango in the lead. He's followed closely by Logic, then Brands in P3. Wins P4. It's Ferrari making up the top 5. First time you get to that chicane, rather that hairpin in a race. It's really crowded. Seen a lot of people pick up damage on that corner, which ironically is one of the slowest corners, if not the slowest corner in Formula 1. Yet we've seen so many incidents at that corner. Still riding with Mango in the lead of this race. Logic P2, he's been able to hold on to him in the early stages. Just to bring up your tyre situation in the race so you have a better idea of what's happening. You can see the entire field practically going for the medium tyre, just 2 runners going with something else. Not Shumi on the soft tyre, looking to make his way through the field in the early days of the race. And then Thiago Maestro, he went for the hard tyre. He's going to be looking to go deep into this race. Virus has made a pit stop very early on in the race. Must have picked up some damage either against another driver or either against one of the many barriers around this circuit. And that's how easy it is. Winsett could have picked up damage there, but he just managed to hold on to the car. You saw it squirm on the way into the tunnel. And that's the last place you want to crash, is inside the tunnel. Mango leads the way, gap still 0.6 of a second, so Logic doing just enough to hold on. Of course, he's only got that one DRS zone, and it's not a very useful one. Mango 111.2, the leader, puts in the fastest lap of the race. It's Ferrari coming under all sorts of pressure. He's got Cheddar in P6, one of the quicker drivers in the field. Maybe not a fan of Monaco, finds himself in P6, but he's looking to change it. Looking to get past the lead RB of It's Ferrari. Then his next target will be the Papaya McLaren. And the McLaren is not far ahead either. He'll have a clear view of his next opponent. Further down, Mr. M in P7, where he qualified, I believe. And he's had a pretty simple race up until this point. Since P8, not Shumi. Looking to make up positions in the early stages of the race. He put softs on that car, so he will have superior traction around this circuit compared to everybody else around him. Those tyres will be the first to fall off though, so he will need to come into the pits. Needs to make the most of those tyres before they begin to drop off. Mango 1.2 seconds. So he's now opened that gap rather beyond DRS on a track that has almost no DRS. So if Mango just has the better pace, there's nothing Logic can do to reel him in. Some other circuits we have up to 3 DRS zones, so many opportunities to reel the leader back in, bring him closer to you. That is not the case in Monaco. If the leader escapes, it could all be over, and there we go. We were talking about the leader escaping. Mango comes to a standstill. He was leading the race, he was opening up the gap, he looked comfortable. Don't think there was any contact with any driver, he was all on his own. But Mango has had a serious collision. He's lost the wheel of that car. It has somehow not triggered a safety car. And we have our first DNF of the evening, and it was your leader. Not going to get much more dramatic than that. Logic, well, he'll be thanking his lucky stars. He would have been thinking, what do I have to do to hold on to the Ferrari? And all of a sudden, you would have seen the stranded Ferrari on his left. And this race has now definitely come to the Alpine driver, as he's 2 seconds ahead of the next driver. Brands in P2, Windsor's now promoted into a podium position. Hopefully Mango doesn't leave. Stay in the comment section, let me know what happened. We saw you here earlier, so let me know what happened there. Was there any sort of contact? Was it just a simple mistake? Even the quickest drivers, even the best drivers, they've had touches with the barriers on this circuit. Of course, I'm talking about our own league racing, and I'm also talking about Formula One. Some of the best, some of the drivers known as the GOATs of F1 have all made contact, have all retired at some stage. Here in the Monaco Grand Prix, nothing easy about this layout. Of course, Michael Schumacher's first pole position in a Ferrari came at this circuit, and it tragically ended just a few corners later when he retired on the formation lap after just aquaplaning straight into a barrier at low speed. Mango, no words. Well, I didn't quite know how to respond to it either. Mango was leading the race, definitely had the advantage in quali, had the pace. In the early stages of the race, Logic was able to stay with him, and then he broke away, broke the DRS gap. The race was really looking like it was going in Mango's favor, and then all of a sudden, just a mistake. On any other track, probably would have gone maybe off the tarmac, maybe picked up a warning, or at worst a penalty. But around Monaco, it's usually a retirement. Let's go a little further back in the field. We have a 3-car battle here for P3. Windsor's, Ferrari, Cheddar. Cheddar still in P5. Mr. Rem. You'll see a lot of these drivers have moved up a position. That is not as a result of overtakes. That's as a result of the leader retiring from the race. So everybody moves up one position. See barely any overtaking. At least not on the stream. Mango just saying one tap of the barrier and it all came to an end. That's how it is at this circuit. That's why for many F1 drivers, winning at this layout means so much. Being able to use all of the racetrack, do all of the risk, getting as close to those barriers as you can, lap after lap after lap, keeping your concentration, and then suddenly just one tap at any stage in that race, it could be the last thing you do in that race. Like I say, on most of the other tracks on this calendar, you simply would have gone off the track and possibly picked up a penalty. But here in Monaco, you're done for. Great helicopter shot of the real harbour here in Monte Carlo. No fake water needed as in Miami. If you're in the comment section and you're interested in going to a Formula 1 race in the USA? Well, I did a little bit of research, and if you decide to go to the Miami Grand Prix and all the food prices don't increase from this year, you can expect to pay 4,500 Rand for a plate of nachos. So if you choose to watch the Formula 1 Grand Prix in Miami, I wish you all the best. Must be some crazy good nachos though. 4.5K. Still with this 3-car battle. Wizards in P3 doing all he can. He needs to hold on to his podium position, but it's where he wants that position. And the more he attacks, the more Cheddar gets all over the back of that Red Bull. Cheddar might just be waiting for some sort of an error between these two drivers. Of course, it's so difficult to overtake. Sort of just got to follow lap after lap. Got to apply the pressure, stay as close as you can, let that driver ahead of you know you're there. Constantly remind him, weave left, weave right, take up all of his mirrors, and eventually, hopefully, a mistake under pressure. You need to be close enough to make the most of that mistake, but far away enough not to crash into him. So that's a pretty good run. Late on the brakes, gets really close to the McLaren, but now there's just no DRS zone that you can find. Twisty circuit, it's a narrow circuit, and overtakes really only happen when somebody makes a mistake. Of course, all circuits on the F1 calendar need to have a grade 1 FIA approval rating. Monaco actually breaks 2 of those rules. The minimum length for any grade 1 circuit should be 3.5 kilometers. Monaco is 3.3 kilometers. And any grade 1 circuit should be no less than 12 meters wide. Well, Monaco is 10 meters wide. So F1 breaks 2 of its own track rules to accommodate this circuit. That's how narrow it is. When the Spanish Grand Prix was announced to move to Madrid, a lot of people suggested why not moving it to another one of the established circuits in the country, which Spain has many of. A lot of people wanted a return of a Grand Prix at Jerez, and the reason given why F1 will probably never return to Jerez was simply the width of the circuit, and that circuit is 10 meters wide, just like Monaco. Of course, Kyalami right here in South Africa fits all of the criteria for a grade 1 circuit. Some very small improvements to runoff areas need to be made, and everything else is pretty grade 1 already. Logic leads the way. We said this race had come to him once Mango retired. Remember, that gap after Mango retired was 2 seconds back to the Red Bull. It's now 4 seconds back to the Red Bull. So the gap has doubled. Still haven't seen the first round of pit stops. All of the medium runners are still on that set of mediums. Not Shumi, he started on the soft, looking to make his way through the field. He has since come into the pits, got rid of those soft tyres. There is the Williams driver. In fact, he's the leading Williams driver. As for his teammate, just down in P10, I think he was the driver who had to make a pit stop very early on, or one of the drivers who had to make a pit stop very early on, because you can see his tyres are just one lap out of sync with everybody else. So I think he pitted at the end of lap 1 for damage. That's why he finds himself 3.5 seconds behind his teammate, a teammate that has already served his pit stop. Of course, 39 laps, because it's the shortest racetrack on the calendar. But it's 39 laps of solid concentration. For Logic, just needs to worry about getting around this circuit, keeping his front wing intact, getting the car to the end. He's definitely got the pace to win the race. The problem is, we've already seen one man crash out of this race from the lead. And sometimes it doesn't even take you daydreaming for a second, it's just the smallest tap. As Manga said in the comment section, the smallest tap can be enough. And we've already seen this Alpine going left and right a few times on the exit of corners. A mistake is never far away. Of course, when you have this sort of a lead, you don't have to use all of the racetrack, you don't have to get as close to the barriers. But at the time, Mango was very much pushing. He was trying to extend that gap. He had just broken DRS, so he was probably giving everything he could to that car, and on a fresh set of mediums with a full fuel tank, it just wasn't enough. Logic out front, Brands in a lonely race in P2. He's almost 6 seconds adrift from Logic and 12 seconds ahead of Wizards. So Brands in a race of his own. It's Ferrari, still very much fighting for P3. That was a battle between 3 cars. That third car has since dropped off. That was Cheddar. He's come in to get rid of those mediums. So Cheddar now back out on circuit on a set of hards. Natsumi just behind him on a slightly older set of hards. Now these drivers will either be going very deep into the race in hope of a safety car, or maybe they're looking to finish the race on the hard. It seems like a lot of laps to go, but you've got to remember that the length of the circuit means those tires can do a lot more laps than you're expecting. Of course, when we go to a track like Belgium, it's more than double the distance of this circuit. Monaco just 3.3 Ks, Belgium just over 7. So a soft set of tyres that might last you for 10 laps at one circuit could last you 15 or 16 at another. But we don't have any indication how far those hards can go. If anyone in the comment section does know and confirm to me that those tires can go to the end, it would be about 25, maybe 27 laps on a set of hards. What would be the limit on that white wall tire? Let me know in the comment section if you do know. For the time being, the man in the lead, he's still on a set of mediums, the tyre he started on. He's going a little longer than everyone else around him. Remember that whole top of the field, everyone was on a set of mediums at the start of the race. Now the top of the field, just 2 drivers remain on mediums. Those 2 are Logic, who we're currently looking at. The other one is Andre, having a solid race so far. He's in P3. hasn't made a pit stop yet, so he will fall down the order when he inevitably does do that pit stop. Won't be surprised if it's at the end of this lap or the next. Let's have a look at Logic. Might get some indication of what Andre will do. If we see Logic dive into the pits, got a 26-second gap, so he would come out comfortably in the lead, and he does dive into the pits. Means Brands will regain, well, he's already in P2, but he will regain his P2 in a lonely race. He's going to come out approximately 6 seconds, 7 seconds behind Logic. There is Logic. He's coming back to the racetrack. You want to be very careful when you rejoin the racetrack. That pit line comes a lot quicker than you think. There we go. Logic out of the pits, so now just getting back up to speed. I said the gap would be in the region of 6 to 7 seconds, and there we go. The gap is 6.3 seconds between the leaders. Andre in P3. If you're wondering how he got into P3, well, he hasn't made a pit stop. He'd be hoping for a safety car right now. That would be fantastic. But unfortunately for him, and unfortunately for anyone else who was hoping for a safety car, just hasn't happened. Even with a huge retirement from Mango, left him stranded on one of this very narrow circuit straights. Not even that triggered a safety car, so we still wait to see what will. And if we have a Monaco race distance without a safety car, well, that's impressive in itself. Seems to be a McLaren ghosting at the rear of the field. That is Pantry Star. That car is ghosting. That means he's not in control of that car. Just look at that McLaren again. Look, maybe he's ghosting because he's being lapped. I'm not quite sure if that car is ghosting or not. And that might be the first safety car of the evening. No. I thought I saw a stationary kick Sauber. Not sure what's happening here on the stream. Logic leads the way. Brands P2. Andre still in P3, and he's really taking these mediums a lot longer than I thought he would. 18 laps now on the medium. Everybody else has abandoned those mediums. So we said the entire field, with the exception of 2 drivers, started on the medium compound. Only one of those drivers still remain on the medium compound. It's the Aston Martin driver, currently in P3. Unfortunately for him, he's facing quite a drop when that pit stop happens. He's probably going to come out with somewhere around P9 or P10. Lots of viewers, not so many people in the comments. Let me know what you think of this race. Let me know what you think is going to be the top 3. Of course, after the race, for all the drivers who are listening. Top 3 drivers as well as driver of the day are invited to the cool down room. That is on the Discord NFR server. You'll then be brought in to the comms box for what should be a interview, a driver's interview, but usually it's not a driver's interview, it just turns out to be a chat. Everyone has a little word about their race. And if Mango's still here at the end of the session, I think you should join that too and tell us a little bit about your crash. Of course, if anyone in the comment section would like to pose a question to the top 3 drivers, you can put that question in the comment section and I'll try and ask it, so long as it's not a bad question. I don't want any controversy in the comms box. That can stay for the circuit. because that's where the action should be. The top three, Logic, Brands, and now Cheddar. And Cheddar just undercut those cars ahead of him, because you can see the evidence on your timing sheets. He's got a 6-lap old set of hards. Those two cars that were just ahead of him, that was Wizards and Ferrari, they've got 5-lap old hards. So Cheddar went into the pits 1 lap earlier and effectively undercut those cars. He's now in P3, and he's not there as a fluke, he's there on merit. He has done his pit window. He's just going to have a set of tyres that are 1 or 2 laps older than the guys around him. Andre has since come into the pits. He's also fitted a set of hard tyres. What's going to be beneficial to him is that he stretched those mediums as long as he could, which means at the end of this race he's going to have much better tyres, at least in tyre life, than everyone around him. But if you're relying on having the better tyre at the end and making up positions, Monaco, it's not always very possible to do that. Catching is one thing, overtaking is quite another. And that, in fact, is a Murray Walker quote. Catching up is one thing, overtaking is quite another. Some Murray Walker quotes, most of them brilliant quotes. Quotes I'll never forget. Others sometimes left me scratching my head. One of the famous Murray Walker quotes to leave me scratching my head was, "If is F1 backwards." And even as a young child I was like, no, that's not right. Of course, if you know your F1 history, you'll know that F1 was almost called Formula I. Luckily it was not called Formula I, and it was called Formula 1. The names floating around were Formula A, Formula I. Formula I would have been for Formula International. Formula A would have been that it's at the very top of the one-seater category. Luckily for all of us, they went with Formula 1. Would have been quite a weird thing to say, the Formula I Grand Prix. Not Schumi, Wizards. In fact, not Shumi's just up the road. This is Wizards and It's Ferrari. Big lockup from It's Ferrari. We saw the smoke in the background. We didn't quite see it on screen. Not the best camera angle. Just take all of this information off your screen for a little while so you can have a good look at this circuit, have a good look at this layout, see how close these guys get to the barriers. Just feels like Wizards has been defending for most of his race. For the longest time he was defending P3, has since lost that position to an undercut, but now he's defending P4. He just can't catch a break, just can't take a breath. And of course, when we do remove the information from the screen, that's when a virtual safety car happens. So we're under virtual safety car. A little bit frustrating for the drivers at the back. Virtual safety car, you would have always preferred a full safety car. That means you'd be able to catch up back to the back of the queue. That means anything could happen for you in this race, but a virtual safety car doesn't allow you to do that. Forces you to drive within a certain delta, maintaining an average speed. Of course, you don't want to fall asleep too much during a virtual safety car, because you'll go to the one extreme of that delta and you'll find out that you actually lost time under the safety car. So while the virtual safety car is there to maintain the positions, it doesn't always maintain the gaps. That's up to you. Logic leads the way. I was gonna say something huge happened to that gap. Well, he's on a set of mediums, a brand new set of mediums. So he came into the pits, put on a brand new set of mediums. He was able to come out of the pits in the lead of the race still. He's got a 2.2 second advantage at the front from this man here, Cheddar. But he's also got a massive tyre advantage. So taking this race away from Logic, I think there's only one driver on circuit who could take this race away from Logic. And that driver is Logic himself. Don't think anybody's going to be able to catch the Alpine at this stage, especially with that tyre advantage. And unless we see another mistake like we saw from the Ferrari driver in the early stages of this race, I really don't see how anybody could challenge the Alpine. He's got speed on his side, he's got tyres on his side. His next opponent down the road is Cheddar. He's got 11 lap old mediums. Rather 11 lap old hards. His tyres will be far from finished. But the mediums at this stage, just so fresh, so much grip. Logic can enjoy those for the next 5 or 6 laps, just throwing the car around. Then he can have a look at the gap and decide if he wants to just take the last few laps a little easier. Cheddar, P2, not Shumi, P3. Any sort of a safety car would be great for Najumi because he's in a strong P3, but he's out of sync with the drivers around him when it comes to pit stops. He's got 16 laps already on those hards, so if he intends taking them right to the end, he's going to have one of the oldest sets of tyres on the circuit. But for now, he defends his P3 from Windsors. Not ready to give that up. A little further back, Mr. M in P5. He started in P7. Thought we had one additional DNF. We actually had 2 additional DNFs. So I wonder if those were completely unrelated incidents or if those cars made some sort of contact. So we've had 3 DNFs from the 14 that started, 11 remain. That means one unlucky driver won't be in the points. Everybody else is assured of points. Finishing this race will be crucial. We mentioned either early on in the race or early on in qualifying that for some of these drivers they'd be missing their teammates tonight, and for those drivers it would be crucial that they get a good points position in the absence of their teammate. Unfortunately, there's only one Kick-Sauber here tonight. That Kick-Sauber has retired, and it's very much the same story for Red Bull. Just the one Red Bull here tonight, and that Red Bull has since retired. Mango just saying that if Logic doesn't make any other mistake, then he will be 30 points ahead in the championship. Of course, we're at 50%. Are we at 50%? I think yes. I think it's a 10-round season. This is round 5, so this is halfway distance in the season. And even a 30-point lead can come down very, very quickly. Of course, 25 points for a win. If you manage to pick up the fastest lap as well, you can pick up 26 points. So if Logic does have a bad day, man in P2 takes the victory, takes the fastest lap, that massive 30-point lead in the championship can become just 4 points in one night. Championship is far from decided, but the rest of the drivers will have to pull up their socks and make sure that Logic isn't able to get away this easily in future races. Logic leads from Cheddar. Natsumi in P3. Wizards P4. Is he still playing a defensive game? No, he's not. He's actually behind Natsumi, so now he's playing an attacking game, trying to get his McLaren back into P3 where it was at a stage in the early stages of the race. At that time he was defending from an RB. I believe it's Ferrari. He was also defending from the Mercedes-Benz of Cheddar. Lots changed since then. Cheddar did an undercut by 1 lap, found himself ahead of Wizards, and it's Ferrari. Now finds himself all the way up in P2. He's 11 seconds adrift from the leader. Panda just bringing up that penalties throughout the field on a track you wouldn't expect anybody trying to cut corners on. And folks, well, this could change everything. Look at the pit lane. The pit lane is busy. There's cars up and down the pit lane. Some of them changing wings, some of them changing tires. We have a late safety car in this race. 9 laps to go in the race. This could throw everything on its head. I think this did work out pretty well for the likes of Natsumi. Remember, he was stretching his tires. He's now come in under that safety car. I said he'd be praying for a safety car. Well, he got one. Means he's only lost the 1 position. He was in P3. He's come out of the pits in P4. Crucially, on a fresh set of mediums. It's Ferrari ahead of him on a set of softs. Those softs won't be too worn down, just 5 laps on the softs, and then he's going to do another 2 or 3 laps behind the safety car. Cheddar comes into the pits. He's got 15 lap old hards. He's got a 30-second lead to the next car, and that next car won't be driving around at full speed, so Cheddar will be able to hold on to his P2. Now, just before this safety car was called, Panda in the comments section mentioned that most of the field had penalties. Now, of course, at that stage, the field was pretty spread out. We had gaps here and there of 3 seconds, 4 seconds, even 6 seconds. So, penalties don't count for much if you have a big gap to the opponent behind you. But now with this safety car, means the whole field will be compressed together. There's only 4 drivers in the field with no penalty next to their name. And those drivers could get a brilliant result out of tonight, even if they have a whole handful of cars ahead of them. Because if those cars have penalties, well, you're going to pick up a few spots. All you need to do is stay as close as possible. And it's just a few laps of Monaco. You've got to really ask how far apart can these guys get. So the likes of Mr. M, he'll be smiling ear to ear if he can just stay out of that penalties column. We'll bring up the penalties so that you have a better idea of what is going on, and that could really come back to hurt Cheddar. Logic in the lead, no penalties. Cheddar in P2. He's got 6 seconds worth of penalties. Then we've got 3 seconds apiece for the likes of It's Ferrari, Natsumi, Thiago Maestro, and Spikes. We then have a 10-second penalty at the rear of the field for Virus, and a drive-through for Wizards. Of course, if you're the driver with the drive-through, I'm sure you don't need any reminding. Sometimes drivers just make the error. You cannot serve that drive-through until the safety car is over, and that's what makes that drive-through even worse. You've got to wait until this whole field compresses. You've got to wait until this whole field comes together. And when the safety car finally peels off into the pits, only then can you serve your penalty, which is going to guarantee you coming out not only at the back of the field, approximately 20 seconds behind the field. Logic out front, he doesn't need to worry about any penalties. Mr. M, P5, also no penalties. If he's got any warnings, he'll know about them. He'll know if he's close to a penalty or not. And then the only other driver on track with no form of penalty next to his name in P9. As I say that, Virus spent an awfully long time in the pits, but he has served the 10-second penalty, so that will no longer be added to his race time. And now Tiago Maestro, things going from bad to worse. Tiago Maestro now picks up a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That'll take his penalties tally up from just 3 seconds to 13 seconds. And when you're waiting for the safety car to end, and you've got 13 seconds next to your name, things aren't really looking good at that stage. Field still pretty spread apart. I think we've got an RB right at the back of the field, so safety car is going to be out for a while. Of course, if none of the drivers had penalties, well, this would be a really exciting restart. This could be a situation where a driver dominates an evening, leads an entire race, has a massive gap. Safety car comes out at the end, and all you need to do is be the better car into turn 1 and you could take the victory. Unfortunately, for the likes of Cheddar, it's free, not Shumi. Even if they make that incredible overtake into turn 1, the chances of them winning this race is very small, because they have so many penalties next to their name. They'd have to win the race by a considerable margin. Didn't get the notification on our screen, but safety car has clearly come to an end. Logic leads the way from Cheddar. It's for P3. Race was starting to get a little bit boring with all the gaps that had formed, but now the safety car has ensured that all of those gaps have been deleted. Safety car did not wait for Virus. Virus is 25 seconds adrift from the rest of the field. Thought we'd have another lap under safety car. It's lap 34 of 39. Once we get to lap 36 of 39, then we are in the safety car safe zone. We can have no more safety cars. Up until then, still need to be on your toes. Safety car right at the end of Monaco could change everything. We've already had one. Hopefully we won't have another. Mr. M, any positions he can make up would be very beneficial, but if he can't make any positions up, he just needs to stay as close to those cars ahead of him as possible. It's Ferrari ahead, not Shumi ahead, both 3-second penalties, and Cheddar 6 seconds worth of penalties. So a P2 is on the cards, but he's going to have to stay very close behind those drivers. Cheddar's aware of his 6-second penalty, so he's trying to get up the road. He's also trying to hold on to the back of Logic. But at the moment, that gap 1.9 seconds down to P3. It's not going to be enough to cancel out a 6-second penalty. Remember, he's got 3 seconds of his own, so he doesn't need to cancel out a 6-second penalty. Cancelling out 3 seconds would be enough. He's got 2.2 of those seconds already. So Cheddar looking to secure himself P2. And while we say that, he's only a second adrift from Logic. Of course, we've seen on this channel in the past, we've seen in F1 in the past, sometimes drivers can match each other on a specific set of tires, lap after lap, trading positions, and then suddenly there's a pit window, new sets of tires come out, and in the second stint of the race you're just not able to hold on as you were in the first stint. Bringing up your tire situation at the end of the race, or towards the end of the race. Logic, Cheddar, It's Free, those are your top three. All three of those drivers on the soft compound of varying ages. P1 and 2 on exactly the same strategy there, both on soft compound 5-lap old tires. It's Free and P3 also a set of softs, but he's already got 11 laps on those tires. So he'll be hoping those tyres can hold together. He has built a 5-second gap. Actually, there we go. That works a little better. So, not a 5-second gap, a 5/10th gap. So Notsumi could very well steal a podium in this race. Commentated on his races before, and I know this is a layout he enjoys. Currently in P4, 7-lap old mediums, the car ahead of him on 12-lap old softs, and if those softs do begin to fall off, then the opportunity should roll the way of Notsumi. Remember, Mr. Rem, he has made his way up into P5, he has no penalties next to his name. Andre in P6, also no penalties next to his name. All they need to do is stay as close to their opponents as possible. They don't need to worry about making an overtake. And some serious points on the cards for tonight. For everyone, of course, just 9 runners. So everyone will be in the points by the end of the night. It's just up to you how much of those points will go your way. Currently for Logic, 25 points will go his way. Let's have a look so far at the fastest lap. Fastest lap a 110.5. The next best lap that we can see is a 111.0. So his lap time is half a second quicker than anybody else on the circuit. He looks almost guaranteed at this point to take the fastest lap in the race and the victory. So that would be 26 points. But of course, if you're another driver in this championship who's battling for the lead, worry not. We're just at the halfway distance in this season. And so much can happen. We've seen massive leads be wiped out in one result. Similar to what we saw to Georges Martin in MotoGP over the weekend. Went into the race with a sizable, comfortable cushion in the championship. He then fell from his motorcycle with only a handful of laps to go, gave the race to his opponent, and the entire championship went from a healthy lead to a few points behind in second place. So any lead is not a confirmed victory until it is mathematically impossible. Notsumi weaving left, weaving right, trying all he can to get past the RB. If this was any other circuit and he had this pace advantage, he would have already been past the RB. But this isn't any other circuit. This is the street circuit. This is Monte Carlo, the biggest challenge these drivers will have all season long. There may be circuits out there that the drivers don't like even more than Monaco. But on a lot of those circuits you can make a mistake, you can get away with it, you can get a second chance. Not here. Logic has gone over the line. We now wait for Cheddar. We're not going to read out the results because there's so many penalties on the board, so we're just going to wait for the official results. We're going to wait for everyone to come over the line. We're going to wait for the official results. Then we'll read them out to you. Still waiting for Wizards. It's weaving over the line. Even finishing P8. Guys, weave over the line. That's what it means to finish here in Monaco. Retirement so likely on this circuit that when you do manage to finish the race distance, even that 2, 4, 6 points means so much. Andre is your driver of the day. And a few guys already leaving early. Let's mute the game because F1 and its copyright system is really rubbish. So I have to mute the game for you. So no F1 music in the background. There are your official results. Logic takes the victory. Also takes fastest lap. 26 points on the night. Cheddar, good job. Solid race. That undercut really came back nicely for him. He finishes P2. Then Mr. M. Penalties came back to help him. He finishes P3. It's Fari P4. Not Shumi. Penalties hurt that one in P5. Then we have Andre, driver of the day, Tiago Maestro, P7, Windsors P8, Virus P9, and that's the last of your finishes. We had DNFs for the likes of Spikes, Pantry Star, Brands, Simps, and your first retirement, and it was from the lead of the race. That was Mango. Of course, now, after the race, as has become custom on this channel, we invite the top 3 drivers as well as the driver of the day to join the cool down room that is on the NFR server. And once I've got 1 or 2 of you in there, I'll bring you into the comms box. We can have a little chat about the race. Mango, if you're still in the comment section, you're more than welcome to join the comms box as well. You can tell us a little bit about your incident. And if you're in the comment section and you have any questions you would like to put through to one of the drivers, type it in there and I'll try and get it through to that driver. And there we go. We're going to now try and bring some of these drivers into the comms box. We have 2 drivers with us already. That is Andre, driver of the day, and Mr. M. Managed to get a great result as a result of the penalties around him. We're going to now bring those 2 drivers into the comms box. And of course, if we get any more drivers joining the cool down room, we'll bring them in as well. Guys, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Mr.
Yes,
M
we
and
can.
Mr. M and Andre. Okay, Mr. M, we'll start with you. How did you find your race? You really
Uh,
came back there because of the penalties.
yeah, it was quite testing as always in Monaco. Got lucky with the penalties with the guys in front. Almost stole a P2 as well. Otherwise, the race was good. Hards were difficult getting out, getting them, the heating the tires. Took about 4 laps, so the overcut was maybe better for me than the undercut.
Tell me,
But yeah,
did you officially make any overtakes on track, and how many overtakes did you make?
I made absolutely none.
There we go.
I
That's why
stayed.
that's a question specifically reserved for a Monaco Grand Prix. How many overtakes did you make, if any?
Yeah,
Because
at a stage I was hauling in Fori and Windsock. Fori was a bit stuck behind Windsock, and then I got a little bit of wing damage, and then I lost them. But just because of what happened, I passed him again. So,
We go to, I'm commentating in too many leagues, but I think it's the Aston Martin driver. We go to Andre.
Yeah, my teammate.
There we go. The both of you. There we go. Both Aston Martin. Show you how much attention I pay. So Andre, you got driver of the day at the end there. You got a good result. You were also one of the very few drivers without any penalties next to his name, and it really counted at the end.
Yeah, penalties is important. And yeah, so to keep it clean and pays off at the end of the day sometimes.
Of course, same question to you. Did you make any overtakes?
Well, Thiago spun slightly and he was in ghost mode, so I overtook him. And then I noticed that he's a bit quicker than me, but he had plenty of penalties, so I just let him pass again. So each of us had one one overtake.
It's quite an incredible stat. I said it at the beginning of the stream. Obviously, Formula E also races here in Monaco, and a few years ago they started racing at the full layout, the exact same layout that the F1 used. And in the 2024 Monaco Grand Prix, we had a total of 22 passes throughout the entire field, throughout the entire race. And in the Formula E race, which is a much shorter race distance, we had over 200 passes. In fact, we had more passes for the lead than Formula One had throughout the field.
Wow,
So
it's amazing. But they've got big kahunas there, because to try to overtake on this track, it's not easy. Not even trying to make the decision is easy.
It's definitely not. I mean, everybody says, it's because the cars are so big today. But I mean, if you go look at some of the classic races, if you go look at Senna keeping Mansell behind for 20 plus laps, and it's just an incredibly difficult race to make an overtake on if your opponent doesn't make some sort of mistake. And just want to have a look if anybody else has joined. Nobody else has joined, guys. What's your take on Mango? He came back to the comment section pretty speechless. He was leading the race, and yeah, just the smallest tap to the wall.
Yeah, that's quite a shame. He was clearly fastest, especially in qualifying. So it's a shame. I think even Logic would have had a good race together.
In the early stages, Logic stayed with him. I'd say the first 3 or 4 laps, the gap was 4 or 5 tenths, and then after those 4 or 5 laps, he started increasing the gap. He broke DRS. He got the gap up to about 1.4, 1.5 seconds, I think it was, and then he just crashed on his own. Lost a tire, and obviously Logic was able to take the race from there. But in the early stages, he was actually pulling away from the Alpine. Looked like he had the pace. So nobody else has joined. Mr. Rem, Andre, the Aston Martin team, I want to thank you for joining. Also, we want to thank everybody in the comment section. The stream at one stage had 29 live viewers, so it's pretty impressive. So thanks to everyone who joined. Thanks to everyone who left a like. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And until Wednesday night, when SAFRL returns for Tier 2 at this very circuit, until then, cheers. Okay, I've ended